Good evening and welcome to the Bellefleur Tire Shop Grand Falls Rapids pregame show, and Merry Christmas to all of you Rapids fans out there that are watching. As you can see, decked out in the ugly Christmas sweater, and of course had to wear the hat as well because I'm feeling very festive today, and it is going to be a very, very good matchup here. It's the final home game of the 2024 calendar year for the Grand Falls Rapids. The Amherst Ramblers roll into town for the first and only time this season in what is going to be a huge game, and some much needed points up for grabs for the Grand Falls Rapids here. So we're going to break down the storylines as well as the what could happen tonight as well. We're going to introduce a new segment on the show in the new year, which I'm going to preview that as well. And in the post-game show, we're going to break down the game, and we are going to get some input from you, the viewer, who are going to share some holiday stories as well as your thoughts on the game from tonight as well. So stick around for that. But until then, we're going to go right into things here. So the Rapids, in their last 3 games, they've gone 0-1-2, have gone to overtime the last 3 games that the last 2 out of 3 that they've played. The first one obviously being against the Edmundston Blizzard, where they had victory in their hands, but just so narrowly couldn't escape with it. Ended up letting them tie it late in the game, and of course that early overtime winner cost them their shot at winning the game. Still did get a point out of that, which was not bad at all. And then the Miramichi Timberwolves, they ended up almost again winning the game, almost coming back to win the game, and then they lost in a shootout. That's another topic that we're going to talk about as well, as the shootouts. And then, of course, Campbellton, they ended up going down early. They made a heroic comeback, and what felt like just not enough time left, they ended up just squandering the opportunity that they had, losing in regulation time in a game that I'm sure they're going to want to get back. So with that being said, the Rapids, 2 out of their last 3 games, they've gone to overtime. They had a comeback game against Campbellton, but they ended up surrendering that goal, the 5th goal of the game. And another takeaway that I found as well is that they've started to become a third period hero, if that makes any sense. What I mean by that is the fact that they play, I think, their best hockey in the third period. Their best / their worst. Because when they start getting hot, they fall back a little bit, and then they end up just giving up a lead sometimes. That's what we saw in the game against Campbellton this past Wednesday, and that's something they need to avoid if they want to win against the Amherst Ramblers. A little bit of the tail of the tape. So the Ramblers, 17-8-1 on the season, so they are second place overall in the East Link South Division right now, only sitting behind the Summerside Western Capitals, who have 51 points, are running away with that division. Oh my goodness. 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. Their power play ranks first overall in the league, and this is going to be a key implication as well, at 30.8%. So that is a long shot, way far ahead of most teams in the league. We're going to compare how the Rapids have been compared to them. Their penalty kill second overall in the league at 84.6%. And the goals for the Amherst Ramblers, 115-88. So they have 100% scored more than they have. More than they've given up, I should say. The Rapids, on the other hand, 7-16-1-5 on the season. Of course, those 5 shootout losses not doing them any favors whatsoever. And in their last 10, they're 3-5-1-1. So they've got 5 losses in that column. Their power play ranks 7th overall in the league at 20% even. That's where their power play goes head to head. The Amherst Ramblers 10.8% better on the power play than the Grand Falls Rapids, and they're 9th overall in the league penalty kill at 74.7%. And that's something, again, is going to be a huge moment to stay out of the box, because you see how deadly their power play is, and you're going to want to try and stay disciplined as much as you can through the course of the game. So with that being said, their goals for, the Rapids have 102 goals for and 128 goals against. That is a minus 26 goal differential, so they want to try and get that up. This is a game where it's the holiday season, the last one before the calendar year is up, and then January 3rd is the next time the Rapids play at home. This is such an important matchup. I mentioned earlier when the Summerside Western Capitals came to play that this was a game where the South Division teams only play in the North once a year on the road and once a year at home. This is an opportunity to get those 2 points that they need to catch up slowly but surely to Miramichi in the standings and end up carving themselves into a bit of a playoff spot, because they have, when they get back, I believe there's going to be 22 regular season games left by the time they come back after Christmas over that 2-week break, and there's not going to be a whole lot of time to make up those points, as we know. So the key points for the game: the Amherst Ramblers are second in the South Division, looking to gain some ground on the Summerside Western Capitals, although it may seem hard to do. They are looking to do that and solidify themselves into second place, putting some distance between them and third. Grand Falls is looking to turn those 5 shootout losses on the season into some points they can take in and catch up to Miramichi and Campbellton, both in the standings in that final fourth and final playoff spot. And the Ramblers, once again, like I mentioned, only play here once this season. The Rapids already played in Amherst this season, so this will be the last time that they see each other this season at all. And this is going to be a matchup that is so important. All too often over the past couple of games, we saw the Rapids, they started to really get in trouble with penalties. And most of the penalties that they have taken, whether it be roughing or anything like that, is mostly just undisciplined calls that happened after the play was done. Especially over the last 3 games that we managed to see, it seems to be those post-whistle calls that are really starting to get the best of them. And I know that it's going to be tough trying to keep your composure, especially in high-pressure situations like that. But that's going to be one of the big keys to the game for the Rapids, is keep your cool and don't let them get under your skin, because you've seen what happens when they do that. They are able to score on the power play. And a team like Amherst, you do not, and I will stress this until the end of time, you do not want to give up a power play goal to the first place ranked power play in the league. This is so important. Special teams are going to be such a huge factor in this game, especially because you know how crucial, or you know how badly the Rapids power play has struggled this season, and you're going up against the second-ranked penalty kill in the league in Amherst. So it seems like it's very lopsided. However, if the Rapids can take advantage of this, and this is where you're going to want to use your 5-on-5 to your advantage here, because when it comes to 5-on-5 goals, that's obviously the majority of what they've scored on. But you look at Amherst, right? And I want to talk about this as well. Though their power play may be a little bit on the, dare we say, bad side, the Amherst Ramblers, their power plays, right? Or the amount of penalties that they've taken per this season. The amount of penalties that they've taken this season, they rank currently 5th in the East Link South Division with the in terms of penalties. 104 times that they have taken those penalties. 104 times shorthanded on the season. If you can goad them into drawing a penalty, and there is an art to drawing penalties here, especially against a team like Amherst, you are going to win this game by a mile if you're able to get past the toughness, not give in to what they're feeding them, and of course, be able to have that opportunity and to feed nothing to Amherst. Get past all of the rough stuff after the whistles. Don't get involved in the plays. Don't fight back. Don't retaliate. Just goad them into taking penalties and I think one of the other keys to the game for the Rapids is going to be drawing penalties. So your 3 keys to the game is going to be skating a full 60 minutes, because that's something that we've seen them struggle with a little bit in the last few games, especially, is that they were playing well for the first period, second period, and then they started to fall a little sloppy in the third. Sometimes it's the reverse. They played sloppy in the first, and then the second and third, they started to pick it up a little bit. But skating for a full 60 minutes is going to be one of the keys to the game. The second key is going to be drawing penalties against, especially a team like Amherst, who is not very undisciplined. They play very cleanly. Some of the games that they've, especially over the last few games for Amherst, they played very cleanly. They haven't let a whole lot of penalties happen. And the third key to the game is score that early goal, because as we've seen, this is going to be a huge opportunity for them to get on the board. All too often this season, we've talked about this over and over and over again. I could probably talk about it until my face gets blue. The Grand Falls Rapids have surrendered that early goal in the first minute to first 5 minutes. So a huge key to the game for them is get on the board first and keep Amherst off it. Once you get into their goaltenders' heads, or once you get into their heads that, hey, we're on the board first, this is a thing that you need to cement for the rest of the game. I'm going to throw in a bonus here as well, is if you're playing with a lead, defend the lead. Now, there have been a couple of times this season where they've had a multi-goal lead. We talked about this in the last pregame show before the game was postponed last week. Playing with the lead, whether it be a 2-goal, 3-goal, 4-goal, doesn't really matter. They need to play like they're defending a lead instead of just sitting back on their heels, right? And not that they've been doing that a whole lot, but there have been their games where they've surrendered a huge lead. When they were up 4-1, they ended up losing the game 5-4 in a shootout. I'll use that game in... there's just been a couple of games this season where they've done that. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation. But in order to avoid that, get on the board first, right? You don't have to be up 4 or 5-0 in the first period, but just get that early goal, stave off the superstitions, and make sure that you are taking control of the game before it takes control of you. So that's going to be a huge key to the game as well. Coming up, I mentioned earlier that we're going to be teasing a new segment, so I want to talk a little bit about that as well. And so our alumni spotlight, you may have noticed that there hasn't been one in a little while. That is because we have finally ended off our alumni spotlight, so that will be discontinued. Won't be doing that for the foreseeable future, and there's going to be another segment that's coming in the new year as well. And that segment is something that I'm going to call the Heat Index. So it's going to be breaking down the plays of the week from the Rapids and the players of the week. We're going to be spotlighting standout moments, games that happened where they just played gangbusters, or they just overperformed, I should say, and just the best plays of the week from that week. So it could be maybe that it's a highlight reel goal, maybe it was a fantastic save. It could be anything from that week. We're going to be breaking that down in the new year. That's called the Heat Index. It is coming on January 3rd when the Rapids come back for their first game of the 2025 calendar year, and that's going to be something that's very fun too. So the last thing that I want to talk about before we start heading in for the game is the question of the game, and we're going to have a lot more to weigh in on after the post game is over. The question of the game last time, who would make the best Santa Claus on the ice? I got a couple of really good responses. Some I'll go to Ashley, who said that Jeremy Dastu passing to Jonah Laird, I think, is the best Santa Claus move on the ice that we've seen all season. There have been a couple more. Cole McWilliam would make the best Santa Claus on the ice from Jess. And there is another one that I saw that was a very good. Raphael Denis with his highlight reel plays would make the best Santa Claus on the ice this season as well. So those were a few of the responses that I got. Obviously a huge amount that I ended up getting from that. So keeping with the holiday theme is just something that's so important. And I want to take a minute to also acknowledge the fact that it is the holiday season, right? And for a lot of people, this is a very tough time. With that being said, I want to just take a minute and say that if you are going through a tough time, or if you know somebody who's going through a tough time during the holidays, be there for them. Invite them over for dinner. Go and do something fun with your friends maybe that you haven't seen in a while. If they're alone or, they don't have any plans on Christmas, then that's something that I would do, is just spend time with those loved ones that you haven't talked to as much, or friends that you haven't seen in a little while, because life is short. And, around these times of years, it's very tough for a lot of people. So do your best to include everybody. And, the community of Grand Falls is so amazing at doing that. There's so many community events and so many people who are out there helping. The food drive, for example, doing the Santa Claus parade. There are so many initiatives in town where just getting everybody involved and making sure that everyone is feeling included. With that being said, we are going to end this edition of the Bellefleur Tire Shop Grand Falls Rapids pregame show. We've got a whole game ahead, and we are going to talk lots more Rapids after the game is over, and we are going to get you weighing in on how the game went in your eyes, as well as we are going to share some Christmas stories or holiday-themed stories, and so much more coming up very, very soon. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification for all future content, and keep tuned to our YouTube channel for the Bellefleur Tire Shop Grand Falls Rapids post-game show going up after the game tonight. It's going to be a fun one, and let's, fingers crossed, hope that these guys can get a win and deliver us a very big Christmas gift.